Let me say something most people are too distracted to understand. In a world built on options, choosing one person is power, not because you have no alternatives, but because you do. Every day, you're presented with more choices than any generation before you. More access, more attention, more temptation. And yet, the rarest move isn't exploring everything. It's focusing on one thing and building it like it matters. This isn't about romance. It's about priority. It's about waking up and deciding intentionally who gets your time, who gets your energy, who gets your loyalty. Because when a man truly chooses a woman first, he doesn't announce it. He engineers his life around it. And when she sees this, she'll know. Priority isn't something you say, it's something you protect. It's something you protect. It's something you prove when no one is watching. Anyone can send a long message. Anyone can make a promise in the heat of emotion. Words are cheap because they cost nothing to produce. Action costs time. Action costs energy. Action costs opportunity. That's why action is rare. If she is truly your priority, it will show in the architecture of your life. Look at your calendar. That's the truth. Look at how you spend your money. That's the truth. Look at what you respond to immediately and what you delay. That's the truth. Priority is measurable. When something matters, you don't squeeze it into the leftovers of your day. You design around it. You don't give it fragments of attention while scrolling, multitasking, half listening. You give it presence. Undivided focus is one of the most expensive gifts you can offer in a distracted world. If she's first, she won't feel like she's competing with notifications. She won't feel like she's negotiating for your time. She won't feel like she's chasing your attention. She'll feel secure because your behavior is consistent. Consistency is the evidence of priority. Anybody can be intense for a week. Anybody can show up when it's easy. But what happens when you're tired, when you're stressed, when opportunities appear that test your discipline? That's where priority is revealed. If you say she matters but you entertain distractions, your words collapse. If you say she comes first but your ego comes first, your actions expose you. If you say you're building a future, but you're still sampling alternatives, you're not building. You're browsing. Priority eliminates browsing. When you truly choose someone, you close doors. Not because you're forced to, because you decide to. You remove gray areas. You set boundaries without being asked. You don't flirt with chaos and call it harmless. You don't keep backup plans just in case. You don't need insurance when you're committed to the mission. And that's what this is, a mission. Anything meaningful requires focus. You can't build a company by chasing every idea at once. You can't build strength by switching workouts every day. You can't build trust while acting unpredictable. The same principle applies here. Trust is built when your behavior becomes boringly reliable. She doesn't need grand speeches. She needs proof. Proof that when you say you'll call, you call. Proof that when you say you'll show up, you show up. Proof that when you commit, you don't waver when something shiny appears. Priority is also about protection. You protect her time. You protect her peace. You protect the relationship from unnecessary drama. You don't invite confusion into something that's supposed to be clear. You don't test loyalty for entertainment. You don't create insecurity just to feel wanted. If she is first, you move differently. You think before you act. You consider consequences. You ask yourself, does this decision strengthen what we're building or weaken it? And if it weakens it, you don't rationalize it. You eliminate it. That's discipline. And discipline is more powerful than emotion. Emotion fluctuates. Discipline doesn't. Emotion feels strong in the moment. Discipline stays strong over time. So when she looks at your life, she shouldn't just hear that she's important. She should see it in the way you structure your day, in the boundaries you enforce, in the opportunities you decline, in the way you defend the relationship even when she's not in the room. Because priority is visible. It's visible in effort, visible in sacrifice. And when your actions align with your words long enough, she won't have to ask where she stands. She won't have to guess. She won't have to compete. She'll know. Choosing her means sacrificing more than people realize. It's not just about saying no to other women. That's the surface level. The real sacrifice is internal. It's the ego. It's the need for validation. It's the addiction to attention. It's the comfort of keeping options open just in case. Most men don't struggle with commitment because they don't care. They struggle because commitment requires killing parts of themselves that feel powerful. The part that enjoys being wanted by many. The part that likes knowing there's always a backup plan. The part that feeds on external approval to feel significant. When you choose her, you choose to starve that part. Ego wants applause. Ego wants to be admired everywhere you go. Ego wants to prove you still have it. But if you're serious about building something real, your ego cannot sit in the driver's seat. It will sabotage long-term vision for short-term validation every time. Sacrifice means you don't entertain flirtation just to boost your confidence. You don't keep old connections alive because they make you feel desired. You don't respond to messages that you know cross the line. not because you're afraid of getting caught, but because you don't need the hit of attention anymore. That's strength. Distraction is another sacrifice. We live in a world engineered to fragment your focus. Endless scrolling, constant updates, new faces, new conversations, new possibilities. It feels harmless. It feels normal. But every distraction steals energy from what you're trying to build. If you choose her, you simplify. You reduce noise. You stop chasing every spark of excitement. You stop feeding curiosity that leads nowhere meaningful. You understand that attention is finite, and wherever you invest it, something else is deprived. Choosing her means she gets the best of your focus, not the leftovers after you've exhausted yourself on everything else. And then there's comfort. Comfort is subtle. It tells you you've done enough. It tells you she's already here, you don't have to try as hard. It convinces you that consistency is optional once you've secured the relationship. But comfort kills growth. If you truly choose her, you don't become complacent. You don't stop improving yourself. You don't stop showing effort. You assume she'll tolerate stagnation. You understand that being chosen once doesn't guarantee being chosen forever. So you keep evolving. You work on your communication. You work on your emotional control. You build stability. You build vision. You build leadership within the relationship, not dominance. Leadership, the kind that creates safety, clarity, and direction. Sacrifice also means letting go of the fantasy that something better is always out there. There will always be someone new, someone different, someone exciting for a moment. If you chase novelty forever, you'll never build depth. And depth is where real connection lives. Choosing her means you stop scanning the horizon for upgrades. You stop comparing. You stop measuring her against unrealistic standards shaped by social media and imagination. You commit to building value where you stand. That's maturity. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Sacrifice doesn't feel glamorous. It feels quiet. It feels disciplined. It feels like restraint when no one would blame you for indulging. But that's exactly why it matters. Anyone can be loyal when options are limited. Loyalty is powerful only when options exist, and you decline them anyway. When temptation appears and you don't negotiate with it. When ego whispers and you silence it. When comfort invites laziness and you choose growth instead. Choosing her is not a loss of freedom. It's a redefinition of it. It's deciding that freedom isn't the ability to chase everything. It's the ability to focus on what truly matters without being controlled by impulse. When you sacrifice ego, distraction, and comfort, you create space for something stronger than excitement. You create stability, and stability is what turns connection into legacy. Intensity is easy. It's loud, it's dramatic. It feels powerful in the moment. Grand gestures. Long emotional messages at 2 a.m. sudden bursts of affection. Promises about the future spoken with fire in your eyes. But intensity burns fast. Consistency is different. It's quiet. It's controlled. It doesn't beg for attention. It just shows up, over and over again. Anyone can be amazing for a week. Anyone can love loudly when emotions re-high. Anyone can give everything when they're inspired. But what happens when you're tired? When work drains you? When stress hits? When life becomes routine? That's where consistency separates itself from intensity. If you truly choose her, she won't have to ride emotional roller coasters. She won't experience extreme highs followed by confusing lows. She won't wonder which version of you she's going to get today. The affectionate one, the distant one, the distracted one, the overwhelmed one. She'll get stability. Consistency means your effort doesn't depend on your mood. You call when you say you will, even if you've had a long day. You show up when you promise to, even if you're not feeling 100%. You communicate even when it would be easier to shut down. Because reliability builds trust. Trust isn't built on passion alone. It's built on patterns, repeated behavior, predictable integrity. When your words and actions align long enough, she stops questioning your intentions. She relaxes. She feels secure. Security is more powerful than excitement. Intensity makes her heart race. Consistency makes her heart feel safe. And safety is what allows love to deepen instead of constantly defending itself. Most relationships fail not because there was no stability. One person is all in, 1 week and distant the next. Plans are made and canceled. Promises are spoken and forgotten. Apologies are given without behavioral change. That's not commitment. That's emotional volatility. Consistency is discipline applied to love. It's deciding that how you act on your worst days matters just as much as how you act on your best days. It's understanding that small daily actions outweigh occasional grand gestures. A good morning text every day means more than a poetic paragraph once a month. Being present during regular conversations matter. More than a luxury date once in a while. The small things compound, just like training in the gym. One intense workout won't transform your body, but steady training over months will. The same principle applies here. Small, repeated demonstrations of care create something solid. Consistency also means emotional control. You don't withdraw affection because you're upset. You don't threaten distance to gain power. You don't disappear when conflict arises. You stay. You communicate. You work through it without turning every disagreement into instability. That steadiness builds respect. When she knows you're not easily shaken, she feels anchored. She doesn't have to overanalyze every pause in your tone. She doesn't have to guess whether you're still committed after a difficult week. Your presence becomes predictable in the best way. And predictable means she can build on it. She can make plans with confidence. She can invest emotionally without fear that everything will collapse because of one bad day. Intensity attracts. Consistency retains. If you want to truly choose her, don't aim to impress her occasionally. Aim to support her continually. Don't focus on how high you can take the emotional peaks. Focus on how stable you can make the foundation. Because at the end of the day, fireworks fade, but structure holds. And when she looks back months or years from now, she won't remember every intense moment. She'll remember that you were there. Building a future together is not a feeling, it's a project. And every serious project requires vision and execution. A lot of people talk about someday. Someday we'll travel, someday we'll move, someday we'll build something bigger than this. But someday is just a comfortable delay. Vision without action is fantasy. If you truly choose her, you don't just die. Imagine a future. You design one. Vision means you can see beyond the present moment, beyond the current excitement, beyond the early chemistry. You ask bigger questions. Where are we going? What kind of life are we creating? What standards will define our home? What values will guide our decisions? Without vision, you drift. And drifting feels harmless at first. It feels spontaneous, free. But over time, drifting creates uncertainty. One person starts wondering where this is heading. The other avoids the conversation. Slowly, doubt replaces clarity. Vision removes doubt. When you choose her, you communicate direction, not control. Direction. You make it clear that this isn't temporary entertainment. It's intentional construction. You talk about goals and actually map out steps. Financial stability, personal growth, shared experiences, emotional maturity. Execution is where most people fail. It's easy to talk about building a strong relationship. It's harder to wake up early, work on your discipline, improve your communication, manage your finances, and confront your weaknesses. Execution requires effort when motivation fades. If you're serious about a future together, you improve yourself continuously. Not for ego, not to impress strangers, but to become someone capable of sustaining what you're building. A future requires capacity. Capacity to handle stress without collapsing. Capacity to resolve conflict without destruction. Capacity to lead when things are uncertain. Capacity to support her when she's struggling without making it about you. That doesn't happen accidentally. That's developed. Execution also means making practical decisions that align with long-term goals. You don't sabotage progress for short-term pleasure. You don't make reckless financial choices that destabilize your plans. You don't prioritize status symbols over stability. You thin. K in decades, not weekends. Building together also means inviting her into the blueprint. You don't treat her like a passenger. You listen to her ambitions. You respect her perspective. You integrate her dreams into the shared vision. Because a future isn't something you drag someone into. It's something you co-create. That requires communication. Honest conversations about expectations, about timelines, about fears, about sacrifices. These discussions aren't always comfortable, but comfort is not the goal. Alignment is. When vision and execution combine, something powerful happens. The relationship stops being reactive and becomes strategic. You're not just responding to life as it hits you. You're planning, anticipating, preparing. That preparation builds confidence. She feels it when you have a plan. She feels it when your actions match your words. She feels it when you don't just say we'll figure it out, but actually take steps to ensure you will. A man with vision creates security. A man with execution creates momentum. And momentum changes everything. It turns small wins into bigger ones. It turns goals into milestones. It turns dreams into reality. Slowly, steadily, the future you talked about starts taking shape. That's when she knows this isn't temporary. It's structured, it's intentional, it's progressing. Anyone can promise forever. Few can build toward it. Choosing her means you don't just speak about a shared life. You architect it. You calculate risks. You strengthen foundations. You adjust when necessary. But you never abandon the mission. Because a future worth having doesn't appear. It's constructed, step by step, decision by decision, together. Most people treat loyalty like a mood. Something you feel when things are good. Something that's easy when you're happy. Something that disappears when you're frustrated. But loyalty isn't a mood. It's a decision. And not just an emotional one. a strategic one. If you're building anything meaningful, you don't rely on unstable variables. You don't build on feelings that fluctuate with stress, boredom, or temptation. You build on principles, on commitments that hold even when emotions shift. Loyalty is one of those principles. When you choose her, you're not just saying, I feel connected to you right now. You're saying, I've evaluated my options, my goals, my long-term direction, and you align with that vision. That's strategy. Strategy means thinking ahead. It means understanding that every action has consequences. Every moment of weakness can damage trust. Every hidden conversation, every unnecessary secret, every flirtatious exchange chips away at stability. And stability is expensive to rebuild. So you protect it, not because you're afraid, but because you're intelligent. Loyalty, Mia. Ends. You don't entertain what could compromise what you're building. You don't test boundaries just to see how much you can get away with. You don't place yourself in situations that require excuses later. You eliminate the risk before it becomes a problem. That's not restriction. That's discipline. Discipline is what separates impulsive behavior from intentional living. Impulse says, this feels good right now. Discipline asks, does this strengthen or weaken my long-term outcome? When you see loyalty strategically, it stops feeling like a burden. It becomes leverage. A loyal man doesn't waste mental energy hiding things. He doesn't split his attention across multiple emotional investments. He doesn't live in fear of being exposed. His focus is clear. When your energy isn't fragmented, you can build faster. When your conscience is clean, you move confidently. When your partner trusts you fully, there's no defensive tension draining the relationship. Trust multiplies growth. Think about it. If she trusts you completely, she supports you without hesitation. She believes in your plans. She stands with you publicly and privately. She invests emotionally without holding back. That level of unity is rare, and it only exists where loyalty is non-negotiable. Strategic loyalty also means you don't make permanent decisions based on temporary emotions. Arguments will happen. Stress will test you. There will be moments where distance feels easier than communication, but strategy looks beyond the moment. It asks, is this frustration worth destroying something valuable? Most of the time, it isn't. A strategic mind understands replacement is not the same as upgrade. Starting over is not the same as improving. New attention is not the same as deeper connection. Depth takes time, and loyalty protects the time invested. When you choose Hearst, pragmatically, you understand that building trust over years creates something far more powerful than chasing novelty. You understand that alignment in values, resilience in hardship, and shared history are assets. Assets you don't gamble away for short-term excitement. Loyalty is also leadership. It sets the tone. It establishes standards. When you are unwavering, it creates an environment where faithfulness is mutual, not forced. Where security replaces suspicion. Where peace replaces anxiety. Peace is underrated. A peaceful relationship allows both people to focus on growth instead of defense. It removes unnecessary drama. It creates a foundation where ambition and intimacy can coexist. That doesn't happen by accident. It happens because one day you decided loyalty wasn't optional. It wasn't conditional. It wasn't dependent on constant validation. It was a calculated commitment. And when loyalty becomes a strategy instead of an emotion, it stops being fragile. It becomes unbreakable. Anyone can feel strongly in the moment. Anyone can promise forever when everything feels perfect. But very few people build their lives around a decision and defend it daily. Choosing her first isn't loud. It's not performative. It doesn't need an audience. It's visible in restraint. It's visible in discipline. It's visible in how you move when no one is checking. It's in the opportunities you decline, the boundaries you enforce, the habits you build, the vision you execute. That's where real commitment lives. When you prioritize through action, sacrifice ego, stay consistent, build with vision, and treat loyalty as strategy, you're no longer reacting to emotions. You're operating with intention. And intention is rare. If she sees this, she shouldn't just hear confidence. He should recognize patterns. She should connect these words to your behavior, to your growth, to your steadiness, to your long-term thinking. Because the strongest statement a man can make isn't, I love you. At the highest level, choosing her first is not about losing freedom. It's about mastering it. It's about having options and still committing. Having ambition and still protecting. That's strength. So if you're going to say you chose her first, make sure your life reflects it. Not for applause, not for validation, not for image, but because building something real requires nothing less. And when she looks at your actions over time, not just your words in a moment, she'll know.